Hello and most welcome to H1505, and we are presently with the text of Hans Ruin. Faith, Grace and the Destruction of Tradition, a hermeneutical genealogical reading of the Pauline letters. And presently we are at page 20, second paragraph and mid of the paragraph, with a sentence beginning with the premise. The premise for this kind of explication or meaning is that the conceptual resources of philosophy are not totally fixed in advance, but that they can, on the one hand, be generated from within the problematic itself. But also that we can use and follow them as indicative concepts, which do not pretend to objectify the matter. But rather function as pointers in the direction of a fulfillment of a meaning.
Nej, så står det inte ju C1, A1, A4. Är det inte? Men står det något?
It is also important not to mix this approach with that of an Einfühlung, as Heidegger remarks.
Vad är det samma utsträckning? Okej. Ja, nummer 25 till 27. Ja, det var här. Varför det? Man har ju symboltecken på skumt.
question of articulating the character of the situation from within which, e.g., Paul speaks to his congregation in the making.
Bra, tack, tack. Hej.
To this situation belongs precariousness, that it is without certainty, that he does not speak from within knowledge, but from within hope, wakefulness, apprehension, etc. In this way, Heidegger works himself towards the meaning of the Pauline discourse as characterized by the temporal horizon of the Parousia, not primarily as a theological dogma, but as a horizon of lived meaning. It requires that we set aside the traditional interpretations as well as the dogmatic explications and listen out instead for an experience taking shape. Only from the standpoint of such an understanding is it possible to develop, also in a critical sense, the meaning that is realized here. Just as phenomenology in its Husserlian sense presupposes a bracketing of the dogmatic and realistic interpretation of phenomena in order to experience their meaning. So Heidegger also works in relation to the fulfillment of a religious existence.
Visst, för jag orkar ju inte hålla på och det blir ju inget kvar. Hej, vad tidigt det är. Ja, då hade ju kokat ihop. Ja, det kan man säga. Och man kan ju hela hur långt Stefan har kommit. Jag vill ju på hösten. Vill du sitta här? Ska jag sitta här? Och det går att bräcka med. Ja, men jag det är ju så.
Någon som har ställt fram sina jävla färger.
Och Kreta på första.
Ja.
Ser vi dem där.
Sen jag var barn. Innan mina bröder alltid att vi gräva upp någonstans. Och jag tycker det var
When we then set aside the question of dogma and permit the meaning of the explication to unravel itself, very important, the unraveling process we mentioned before could also be compared to the implicit and explicit sense in the Bohemian approach.
Och barnen
har kritik.
Han är mest upptagen som en rädd.
Ja.
Och de ser det framför sig.
Nej, Carina.
De ser det framför sig. Nej, men de ser inte framför sig när de kommer att lyssna. Därför kan vi inte ha någon kvar i skutan någonstans.
Men det finns ju många som hyr båt.
Avräkning.
Nej, du skulle ju kunna, om du blir av med båten så kan du hyra en båt under en
Nej, men jag kan inte det.
Nej,
Jag är för svag.
okej. Jaha, det är
Så
så.
att, ja visst.
Ja, men det är ju dubbelsår.
Ja,
Ja.
så att det är mer kan man bolla den i familjen.
Ja.
Så om de sticker ut och seglar så kan jag ju följa med. Jag kan inte segla själv längre.
Nej.
Det är för farligt.
Ja.
Då blir det saknat till havs.
Ja. Där han driver iväg och sjunger.
Allt det där jävla jobbet.
Det blir så.
Ja, det är så. Det är faktiskt så. Jag tänkte på det. Det var lite en hund. Han dog för att han var gammal.
The premise here is that religious dogma is rather to be seen as the posterior elaboration of the themes as they are first articulated.
När de kommer hem med det här,
När de frågar, har du gjort det? Vi sa ingenting.
jag har tagit med för säkerhets skull.
Och om jag inte lyder så är det så här du vill ihåg. Som att du var på tvären in i det sista. Till och med på vita killen skulle ha kollat. Och så sa varför ska det vara vita killen? Jo, vi orkar inte. De är ju föräldrar syskon. Vi orkar inte tjafsa.
Furthermore, dogma can also be critically assessed in relation to a tentative explication of the meaning of the phenomenon in question.
Alltså jag gör vissa saker gör jag. Det var redan när jag flyttade till Johanneberg och sålde huset med mina skiljer. Och det var ju liksom saker som blev för mycket. Så jag har gjort en hel del så det är väl också städigt.
Jag har ju en son som ska göra allting sen.
Ja,
Och
det är väldigt taskigt. Det är väldigt taskigt att lämna för mycket skit.
This strategy is highly visible in his reading of Paul. He is not seen as speaking in a theoretical, dogmatic way in the first place, and also inversely, that it is only from within Paul's articulation of the Christian life experience that the very genesis and significance of subsequent dogma can be interpreted.
Det är som här.
Ja, det kan stå
Hon var ju också väldigt...
Ja, jag lyssnar på handbok. Då är det ju värdelöst om man
Vill du sitta still?
Men jag kan
Heidegger's reading of the letters could thus be said to work on the basis of a certain idea of a secular and critical reading. A reading that brackets or simply discharges the belief content and the explicit dogmatic component. So putting into brackets is of course a Husserlian move, putting the world outside of the important things. My comment.
Ja, jag skrev det förra året också. Jag undrar om de läser. Jag tror de skumläser. Ja.
Still, it is not critical in the fundamental sense of questioning the very foundation of the Pauline ethos.
Ja, men det är ju jag som det är också. Så hopplös.
Det tar längre tid att skriva upp en konventionslapp om man gör det direkt så. Om det inte är liksom...
Jag la fram det.
Det gjorde jag dagen innan och textade den.
Är den inblandad i ditt jobb?
Det ska inte vara längre. Men där funkar det förut.
Ja,
Är det danska kanske?
men nu är det ju
Ja, det är det. Jag vill slå jag ska kolla på det.
Still, it is not critical in the fundamental sense of questioning the very foundation of the Pauline ethos. Rather, it seeks through phenomenological reactivation of its enactment meaning to bring it to a kind of secularized articulation.
Ja, så var det. Det var ju alltså, och så vinner man det. För den beställde hon när jag var halvfärdig som jag var. Och så sätter hon ju av sig. Ja, men det typ vad vill du höra då? Men för 2,9 sa jag vill ha. Ja. Nej, jag sa det.
A general problem with many of the recent philosophical interpretations of Paul, including that of Heidegger, is that they fail to take into account the extent to which an implicit theological bias
För jag tänkte den
has
skulle
colored the perception of Paul's historical significance, especially in regard to the relation between Christianity and Judaism.
Nummer 20 ser jag. Nummer 20 är på. Inget utan nu.
Put a pause here and get back at us. Guys. It is only in the more recent research on Paul that the full width of this problematic has become visible within the academic community. Before developing my more specific readings, I would like to rehearse certain elementary facts about Paul and about the reception of his letters in Christian theology and New Testament studies. A central concern in much research on Paul and early Christianity from the late 19th century onward has been concerned with trying to understand and conceptualize the logic of the transition from the first situation in which Paul composes his letters where the small, dispersed, and still very tentative Christian groupings were struggling to constitute themselves into more stable congregations or assemblies, ecclesia. Three centuries later, the social religious movement for which he worked had coalesced. Through various twists of fate, and manifested most forcefully by Constantine's militant conversion. Into the one and only state religion of the Roman Empire. From there on, the Catholic Church started its development toward a global moral political institution. Its organization partly molded on the power structure of the empire. Paul's later notability in the development depends entirely on the letters. And the fact that they were included as a central part of the New Testament, constituting the first preserved written sources of Christianity. It is the letters that literally create the specific Christian interpretation of the event of Christ's life and death, and his subsequently proclaimed resurrection, after which the meaning of the law and ethical comportment is transformed.
Och så har jag ögonproppar med mig som liksom ska vara lyckans lucka. Det är skönt, det är bra. Det är bra, kanske varför då? Ja, det är bra. Bra har vi det. Ja.
Specifically pertinent here, I would say. It's the development, the unrolling of the meanings, and how this is similar, as I mentioned, to the implicitness in the Bohemian take that envelopes, develops into the explicit. One could see Paul as a germ, as a first seed of the understanding, and through the development of the empire, together with its social life, administration, technology, population, it develops. And this more open viewpoint is to be parallel with the dogmatic sense of just the word, and just one sense of the word. That strictness that often is connected or associated with Pauline theology.
med i ett universitet. Det gjorde jag det. 3,5 år. Sen blev jag facklig. Nej, men jag kunde ju allt det. Där fick jag en yta på några kvadratmeter eller så, en kvadratmeter. Och så fick jag en summa pengar. Och så...
It all starts with bracketing to get to the, if you want, the noema in the Husserlian take. And it's easier to see how it unrolls or develops. I think it could be thankful here to, and I especially use the word thankful as a thankful thinking, to see it as a spiral rolling out the germ or the seed of Paul, springing in and covering more and extending. And that also stirs free from the Aristotelian take, where everything is contained in the seed. All that's needed. This one is a more generous understanding. Allowing for society, tradition, history and development of all features of this first Christian empire. I think there's enough for comments. Maybe there's a question from my dear colleague Heidegger.
Thank you. I was thinking about one phrase on page 21 about bracketing and the Husserlian sense of bracketing. And I have always thought about the visual form of this bracketing. Is it putting a parenthesis which is a very fluid form of putting things in parentheses, not, or is it square brackets, so to say, very rigid, hard form of bracketing? That is, the word is completely separated, so to say. And it would be interesting to see how Husserl thought it, and to know what is the German word. Does it imply as the English bracketing both parentheses, this fluid, or is it square brackets like this fixed positions? And then I will also comment on a footnote here, footnote 11. It's Hans Ruin mentions two Swedish scholars. Christer Stendahl, he was a bishop in Stockholm. Christer Stendahl died in 2008. Before becoming bishop in Stockholm, he teaches at Harvard Divinity School and was influential Pauli scholar. And then also in the footnote 11 you have Magnus Zetterholm. I have been in touch with Magnus Zetterholm. He teaches at Lund University. He's a specialist of Paul. It's interesting that there's been done important research on Paul. Okay, now we can mention Magnus Zetterholm, the Stendahl, but also, of course, Hans Ruin himself. And myself now soon presenting a paper about Romans chapter 5, verse 1 at Södertörn University. That would be fascinating to see what Hans Ruin says about my conclusion. I give it back to you.
Yes, I'd say, if you put the question in that imaginary way, I would say that the bracketing in the Husserlian approach are soft ones. They don't close the world out. It's just momentarily out of the vision, as we can get a closer look at the touching principle, I would say also. What is the touching? Let it, so to speak, come to the fore more, entering into what's happening. Always we lose the subjective touch. We lose what is perceiving, understanding. We lose also, in this case, the movement. There is no sight here, no temporality. So by doing the Husserlian bracketing is just, so to speak, a momentarily bracketing. So let's use the soft brackets, and then the world can come back in its full force, even more glorious than before, more filled with features, properties, and differences. Say thank you very much, and have a very pleasant morning.
Thank you, thank you.